I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale.
Stuff doesn't take 10 minutes to happen. It takes a second and a half, and your life can be changed, and that's what happened to me. I mean, it was a second. I'm out of the boat, and I'm in the water, and the boat's going. That first 45 minutes, I was preparing myself to drown. Every 45 minutes to an hour, I thought, okay, I'm still here. Let's try to do this. Let's try to make it another 30 minutes. Let's try to make it another 30 minutes. Your mind had to tell you that you wasn't physically exhausted. It was my kids and my family, my wife, and my parents and friends. It was a thought that I'm never going to see them again. It just drove me. I tell people that I could have done it in another 10 hours. It just came. I was able to do it. And I lived for a reason. I wanted to be there for my kids.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cate, and welcome to this week's episode of Rocket Motivation Podcast. This week's guest was fishing off the west end of Dauphin Island in Mobile Bay and was thrown from his boat in rough seas. With no life jacket, he treaded water, swam, and eventually clung onto a barnacle-encrusted marker until he was finally rescued 9.5 hours after the ordeal began. He tells his story of survival, battling rough seas, exhaustion, and hypothermia. His story is fascinating. Kevin Olmstead, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Kevin. Hey, so let's do this. Kind of tell us where you are now in your life, where you live, family, your job. Just kind of catch us up.
I live in Fairhope. I have a wife and 2 boys, 10 and almost 14. I work for the Alabama Home Builders Self-Insurance Fund as an auditor. Been there 20 years and local Mobile native. Grew up in Mobile for a couple years, and then my parents moved over on the Eastern Shore. I've been there ever since.
I got you. All right. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to what I would assume might have been the worst day of your life. Tell us what you were doing and how this all happened.
Well, I was waiting, like you said, I was waiting on the west end of Dauphin Island. Decided mid-morning that the weather was getting a lot rougher, and so I jumped back in the boat and started my trek back home and got out. It was really, really rough. Got out in the middle of the Mississippi Sound and decided to put my life jacket on. So I eased the boat back, took off my kill switch, and whether didn't pull the throttle back into neutral or it popped back out, not real sure, but unhooked my kill switch, stepped 1 foot out to unhook my life jacket and put it on. I was trying to do a good thing, and next minute I turn around, I'm in the water, being thrown over in the water, and when I came up, I saw the boat easing by. My head actually touched the side of the boat. I have a Ranger, 2310 Ranger, and I saw the letters go by, and I knew it was in gear still, and reached out and to touch the swim ladder, grabbed the swim ladder, and got 1 finger over it, and when the boat pulled, finger slipped off.
And so, but you did not get your life jacket on, correct?
I did not get it on.
And so, and was it still in the boat when you fell over?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're watching your boat go.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting there with no life jacket. How deep water are you in?
Well, I'm in the middle of the Mississippi Sound, which is, I was down past Katrina Cut, which is, there's not much down there. It's good. It's a channel. It's the intercoastal waterway.
Right. Okay. And then and the waves are crashing over you.
Yeah, it was a good, it was probably a good 3 foot.
Yeah. At some point you realize, I guess, and probably fairly quickly after you fall over and watch your boat take off, this isn't good.
Yeah, I experienced probably, I try to tell people when they ask me, I experienced some shock that I've never felt before. It was almost like you were having a heart attack. Your whole body's tensing up. It's hard to breathe. It felt like you were it was a pretty bad panic attack.
And how far offshore are you at this time?
I'm in between the Bilobattery State Docks and the west end Dauphin Island, which is probably, 10, 11 miles. So I'm out in the middle.
Okay.
What I could estimate on my GPS track that I saw was able to pull up before I had to let the boat go to insurance. I'm estimating that I probably made it 3.5, 4 miles out in the Mississippi Sound before I fell out.
Oh, okay.
So
you're out there. There's no, you're out there. It's deep water. Waves are crashing. So you gotta, I mean, to survive, you gotta keep your head above water. So how do you do it?
Well, the first thing that I did was, like I said, the panic was probably about 45 seconds. And then just like a light switch, I went from panic to survival mode, and pulled off my wading boots, which were, pretty hard to tread in, pulled my shorts off, tried to make some flotation device out of the shorts, but couldn't do that. So all I've got left on is my underwear and my short shirt, which was a Columbia shirt. And I actually pulled it off, tied some knots in the sleeves, and was going to try to get some kind of air in the sleeves. And the wind was blowing so hard, I think when I picked up the shirt, it just automatically got a little bit in it. And when I say a little bit, it was probably about a baseball size. And I had 2 little bubbles of air. And whether that helped me all day or not, or just gave me maybe my mind played a trick on my mind, it was helping me. I don't know, but I carried those little balls of air around for me the whole time. And, I just had to, get in that survival mode and try to keep yourself in a positive attitude. I mean, it was so easy to get down and say, I'm just not going to be able to make this.
Why do you think you didn't get there where you said, I'm just not going to be able to make this? And, but so you're fighting, you're surviving, you got to stay up. Why do you think you were able to do it?
Well, one thing, the thought, like I said, that first 45 minutes was some of the worst feelings I've ever experienced in my life, from the guilt of, I just put myself in a position that I'm probably not going to get out of. I'm not going to be able to see my kids and family again. And then after that crazy 45 minutes of feeling, and like I tell people that ask me, I don't go out and publicize what happened. But when people ask me, I tell them that first 45 minutes I had to actually prepare. I was preparing myself to drown.
And what do you mean by that?
Just mentally, in my head, trying to prepare myself, because that's what I was thinking, was like, this is going to be the worst thing to drown, because you've seen it in the movies, you've seen it, how awful it is. And, I had to try to just psych myself up that this is probably going to happen. And after, like I said, after that terrible feeling of, I'm not going to be able to see my kids, all that, I just got in a position that I said, I'm not going to let this happen to me.
All right. And so how long, from the time you fell in to the time where and we'll get to how you got to the marker to cling on to it, how long are you actually treading water or swimming?
I fell out, which I think was probably about 10 o'clock, and I reached a piling at 7:15 at night. So, the like I said, the first, after that first 45 minutes, and I said, okay, I'm here. It was like I almost had to pinch myself. Am I here or am I not? I'm still here.
Yeah, I haven't died yet.
I haven't died. I haven't gone through that. And every 45 minutes to an hour that I thought I didn't have a watch. I thought, okay, I'm here. I'm still here. Let's try to do this. Let's try to make it another 30 minutes. Let's try to make it another 30 minutes. Like I said, I was talking to my kids, and I had to do anything that would just keep me in just the right frame of mind. Because, like I said, that first 45 minutes, boy, it threw me in that frame of mind that you were just so much shock that you thought, I'm not going to be able to make this.
Well, and I know you don't have it like time by time, but I also know you say, like, you kind of every 30 minutes, you're just trying to make it another 30. But you're out there, say 3-4 hours, and you're still surviving and above the water. What's going through your head as it keeps going on? And you're like, am I going to have to swim like this forever? What are you thinking about?
Well, I wasn't above the, the waves. So every 2 or 3 seconds, I would have to like take a breath and wait for the next one to come over my head. And they were pretty rough. They were going over your head. They were slapping you in the side of the head, slapping you in the face. So there's different positions that I had to try to get. You take a breath for the next wave to go over you. And of course, when you took that breath, you drank a lot of salt water. So I was drinking a lot of salt water. But like I said, as a fisherman, I knew what the tides were doing. I knew they were still coming in, and the waves were going kind of at opposite angles. So it was like I was in limbo. I couldn't get anywhere. I tried to go back this way. I tried to get this way. And the only thing I could really see was that rig at Katrina Cut.
And how far away was it?
Well, it looked like it was 2 miles if it was 100 yards. But then the survival part of me, which I have no survival training, told me, look, don't try to exert, any energy to try to get anywhere, because I wasn't going to get anywhere. I didn't think, I wasn't going to get back to the beach, which was 3 miles this way. And it was tough to see a lot of stuff. You couldn't see anything unless it was high. Never saw another boat. I think there was one sailboat out that day, and saw one of the big shrimp boats. But that was it. So it was just a matter of just conserve energy. That's all I was trying to do, was conserve energy. And, had to lay on my back a lot and try to just, tread and give my legs a rest. And then.
Well, at some point, exhaustion has got to set in at some point. Aren't you just completely beat out there trying to stay on?
I am.
Yeah. But you just keep going.
I just kept going. Yeah.
And I would assume hypothermia sets in at some point.
Yeah. That never even crossed my mind, but the rescue swimmer, he talked to me a bunch, and I've had a lot of, meetings and stuff with the Coast Guard. They've invited me over to speak in front of I had to speak in front of 100 guys. And they said, look, this is a blessing for us to have somebody come speak, because in your case, there are no survivors. So we can learn stuff from you. But yeah, I didn't know I was getting hypothermia, but they said probably about noontime you were getting it, because the water temp was like 77. It was back in the middle of May. I knew something was going on about probably 2:30 when I was starting to convulse real bad and shake and everything getting locked up. So, but still, hypothermia never crossed my mind, because at noontime it felt good. The sun was out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah.
And also, I would think, with the exhaustion and the hypothermia, you say you're getting locked up. It's got to be difficult to stay afloat when you're kind of tense like that, isn't it?
Yeah, my feet had locked up in the pointed position, and like I said, I'm still holding on to that little bit of a shirt. I think I invented some swimming patterns out there. I was one-handed. I was on the side. And a lot of times, like I said, I had to just stop and try to do something to rest my legs.
Right.
But I don't know. I consider myself a decent swimmer, but those conditions, it was tough.
All right, and let's talk about this piling, which I think I referenced as a marker, but it's a piling. I guess you see it at some point. The tide's going out. And I like to fish. I'm not a big fisherman, I think, like you are, but fishing is all based on the tides where we are. But if the tide's going out, that means the tide's taking you out into the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, I knew, of course, like I said, I knew the tides, and I knew the tide was going to start going out about 2:00. So I think at about that time or something, I figured I got to get going here.
So you see the piling.
I see the piling. It's a pretty good ways from the rig, and somehow I kind of had eased over past the rig, and I see that piling, and I'm thinking it's got to be a mile or something like that. I don't know. It was a long ways, and I figured I got to start going. So I think at about that time, from 2 to whenever I made it, I swam against the current for.
Is your mindset at this point, if I don't get to that piling, I'm done?
Yeah. A little bit later, I thought I've got to get on something stationary for somebody to find me, because if I'm out here at dark, and that was my whole thing. Later on, I was like, when I hit the piling, I couldn't have been happier than, it was like I'd seen Santa Claus. I was like, I made it to this piling. At least I give myself a chance, because I may have to spend the night out here.
But on the piling, I guess it's got barnacles all over it. Are you cut? Are you bleeding?
No. I made it, and of course it's still 2 foot probably. Knew I had to get on the upcurrent side of it to stay on it. So when I got on it, the waves were still going over my head. I used the hard part of my palms to grab a hold of it, and then I just dug my feet in on the bottom, and of course every wave, it slammed me against the piling. So that was kind of tough. So staying on it was tough.
Right. But eventually they find you.
Yeah, I don't think I was on the piling probably more than 20 minutes. And a little bit earlier, I had seen the big Coast Guard jet fly over. Knew it had to be for me.
Yeah. All right. They get you, life flight you out of there, and
Yeah. My 2 buddies, Rick Tornay and Kyle Midnight, found me, which is they found me right in the nick of time, because like the rescue swimmer said, you had about 20 more minutes. Hypothermia wouldn't have let you do anything. You'd have let go. So we had to go They dropped him on the boat. I switched from my buddy's boat to the Marine Police boat, and then they dropped the rescue swimmer on the Marine Police boat. And he said it was too rough to get me in a basket and go back up. So we went in by boat, and then they life flighted me to the...
Right. Did you ever think during this ordeal, the first 45 minutes you talked about, but after that, did you ever think you're not going to make it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A couple times.
Well, what was going through your head at that point?
Well, when I did hit that exhaustion. Before I even got to the piling, I was pretty much spent. And like I said, I got to it, whether it was a mile, half a mile, 3/4 mile, I made a little bit. I was doing this probably from 2 to 7. For 5 hours, I was swimming against the current. I got closer and I got closer. And then, like I said, it just felt like I wasn't going to make it. And
well, what did you do? How in your mind then did you switch it from, man, I don't think I'm going to make it, because you did make it. And, another part of this is that, you're exhausted, and then to be able to swim and navigate yourself, to line yourself up with that piling, to actually grab onto it, that had to take all kinds of effort to do that, even though you're exhausted. Why is it, do you think you were able to do that?
It was my kids. It was the thought that I'm never going to see them again. I tell people that I could have done it in another 10 hours. Probably. Yeah. I could. That was my kids and my family, my wife and my parents and friends.
Yeah.
It just drove me. It was just, I don't know where it just came. I was able to do it.
Right. Through all this ordeal, what have you learned about yourself?
Well,
let me jump in. I would think the first thing, what I think, you're one tough SOB. Let me answer it for you. Yeah. But that's just what I think. But go ahead. Tell me.
Yeah, that's saying it nicely. I've had a bunch of friends call me worse. You're a tough little.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife will tell you. She'll tell you why I made it. She'll tell you because you're a tough. Yeah, hard headed is her word. But physically, I'm 140 pounds soaking wet. Physically, I'm just like a lot of people. I'll get winded going up a flight of stairs, but mentally, I think, that's what got me through. I'm pretty tough mentally, and I had to be tough mentally out there. It was your mind had to tell you that you wasn't physically exhausted. You could do this. You could do this. And like I said, the thought, there's no dad out there or mom that wants to ever experience that thought that I had, that I'm never going to see them, whether it was my fault, for not having my life jacket on or not pulling it back in the neutral, or whoever's fault it was that I was in that position. And of course, I'm blaming myself. I do it today, every day. I blame myself for that position, but putting myself in that position. But like I said, there's not a parent out there that wouldn't have done what I did, or at least tried till they.
Do you relive this whole ordeal in your head?
Every day. Yeah, my mind doesn't want it. I never have any nightmares about it, but every day I get up, my mind makes me relive it. And like I said, it's more of all it wants to, it just tries to rationalize what I did all day long. A lot of times I think about it every couple hours. It's just my mind. I can't turn it off. But I funnel that into a positive thing, like, hey, you did it. You're here. Nothing upsets me. Nothing will upset you after you've gone through something like that.
Yeah. And that's what my next question is, how has this changed your life?
A bunch. Like I said, it's a new lease on life. It's just, if I start to get upset about something, that pops in my mind and says, you lived through that. So,
well, the truth of the matter is, you are very fortunate to be here. But as soon as I said that, I really need to take that back, because it's not that you're fortunate to be here. You're here because of how tough you are, and that you survived this. Some other people may not have survived it. So I guess there is some fortune in that you're here. But you're here because of a reason, because you didn't give up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you look at life any differently now?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, if you went through that and didn't get a new lease on life, then you need to check your pulse.
Yeah.
You've heard that saying, you can go anytime. Well, I believe that, because it can happen. Like I tell my kids, every time you get in the car, You cross the road, you get in your boat. I mean, stuff doesn't take 10 minutes to happen. It takes a second and a half, and your life can be changed. And that's what happened to me. I mean, it was a second and I'm in the water. I'm out of the boat and I'm in the water and the boat's going.
Tell us about the reunion with your wife and kids.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, just seeing them, and wasn't a lot of words said. It was a lot of tears, but it's just amazing. Like I said, the number one reason why I made it was them.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
10 and 14.
Yeah. At this age, I mean, I know they understand what a big deal this was, but as they get older, this will probably even set in more about how important that they are to their dad.
Oh, yeah. They know.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, so let me ask you this, though, and this is kind of broadening this out. Because, Rocket Motivation Podcast, what we're doing here is, I bring on guests to talk about adversity and going through it. And so then they can give advice to, to the listeners, if they're going through some tough times, what advice you give them. So what would you say? Like, this is, of course, completely different. Not many people have gone through what you've gone through, but just for the average person out there going through some tough times, there may be some depressing stuff. Just having a tough go of it, what advice would you give them to try to get through it?
Just believe in yourself. That's what I did that day. I had to believe in myself that I could make it through, and I did, and rely on family. I mean, if you're depressed, and I mean, there's nothing more important than family. I mean, that's what got me through this. So if you got family to lean on, do that. But just believe in yourself.
Yeah. And, and I want to go back because, and there may not be an answer for this because it may just be that's how you are, but the mental toughness to get through what you did and just, I guess, their survival instinct. I mean, and I know that you said, I mean, it was because your kids and your family, but I mean, is there anything else? I mean, I guess a lot of people would say, well, yeah, I've got my kids and I don't, but it seems to me there's got to be something deeper that allowed you to survive this.
I mean, my faith in God, of course. I mean, I talk to God a lot out there, which I don't talk to him a bunch, but I did that day.
Yeah.
And I felt like somebody was with me, for sure. I mean, and I lived for a reason, which is probably I wanted to be there for my kids.
Right. Well, now, Kevin, I know you've been on some other shows, and you've kind of gone in more depth of the story as to what happened than we've gone on this show. What are some of the other shows you've been on? So if somebody wants to listen to more of a factual account, like one was the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report.
Yeah, went on those guys. I do a lot of fishing. I mean, I do a lot of tournament fishing. I know all these guys, the east side, west side guys. I mean, I've got a bunch of friends, and that's one of the reasons why I was found is because of a lot of the buddies that I have and love, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, they weren't going to give up.
No, and I got to thank the Coast Guard and the Marine Police, and I had guys out there looking for me that didn't even know me, But Sean Sullivan show, Sean had me on. There's been several articles. I think Columbia's doing an article. So
right. Well, and Columbia, that's the manufacturer, or the maker of your shirt that you used.
Yeah.
So that would be a good one for you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't hold on to that shirt when my buddies grabbed me. Yeah. It took off, but
well, maybe Columbia will furnish you with some free shirts.
Yeah, they have. They reached out. They
Well, and actually, if anybody wants to listen to the more in-depth factually what happened, it's on the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, episode 219. So if you want to get more into the factually what happened, I recommend you do that. So, Kevin, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Thank you, Robbie. Been great.
But what I always do, I always give the guests the parting shots, or the last word. So I know you've given some great advice and some great stuff so far, but give us something good. Give us something, reach down deep that we hadn't talked about yet. Tell the listeners something to take us home.
Well, like I said, it was really overwhelming the first couple months. I mean, I had texts and calls from people I didn't even know. I mean, West Virginia, Tennessee, they had heard about the story and said, look, man, I read your story or I heard about it, and I went out and bought these life jackets. I got my kids in them. I got my buddies in them, my wife, whatever. It was just really overwhelming. The text and my buddies calling and saying, hey, I'm the world's worst for not wearing the kill switch, not putting on a life jacket. Look at me now. This is what I'm doing. So it hit a lot of people, and that's great. It was a good thing. So a bad thing turned into a good thing. And it made me change my way too. Just that old complacency, it's never going to happen to me. And I've been on the water for 30 years and never had one accident or anything like that. And in a second and a half changed.
And how did it make you feel to get all this overwhelming support, people you don't even know, contacting you? I mean, how'd that make you feel?
Oh, great. I mean, like I said, it's a good thing. Something positive came of it. So if it can help somebody else, then, that's great.
All right. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
What an episode with Kevin Olmstead. My guess is that less than 1% of the people would have survived what he went through. Hard to imagine staying afloat for that many hours. He definitely showed his will to survive. And we don't slow down next week. Next week's guest is Josh Zucker. He was working in Tower 2 of the World Trade Center on 9/11 when the second plane hit. He tells his story of getting out and getting home that day and what he's learned from that horrible day. See you next week. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.